In the deepest and most forgotten crevices of Mount Olympus, where the light of the gods dare not touch, something evil was born. It was not a birth of flesh and blood, but of smoke and envy. Eris, the Lady of Discord, opened her dark chest to give life to the Pseudologoi. They are the daemones of falsehood, creatures that have no substance of their own, but that feed on the air that comes out of the lungs of liars. Imagine winged spirits as thin as paper, with faces that constantly change, whispering 1,000 versions of the same story until no one knows which is real. They are not horned demons. They are something worse. They are the echo of a word spoken with malice. They float invisibly among mortals, perching on the shoulders of kings and beggars, waiting for the moment when the tongue betrays the soul. It is here in this primordial chaos that our story begins, in a time where the truth did not yet have a body, and the lie was just a cloud, hungry waiting for a way to inhabit the earth. Far from the golden palace of Zeus, the Titan Prometheus worked in silence. He was the craftsman of humanity, the sculptor who saw beauty in shapeless clay. While the gods were concerned with banquets and wars, Prometheus was concerned with the souls of men. His workshop was a sanctuary of invention, a place where destiny was forged with hammers. He knew that man, without an internal compass, would become lost in his own arrogance. Therefore, he began his most ambitious work. He would not just create a body, but a force of nature. He wanted to give the world Aletheia, the embodiment of truth. She would be the light that does not blind, the ground that does not shake, the word that needs no explanation. Little did he know that danger would not come from without, but from within, from your own walls. Prometheus did not use ordinary clay. He used the primordial essence of the earth, mixed with the tears of his own compassion. With his powerful fingers, capable of crushing mountains, he sculpted Aletheia with the delicacy of one touching a rose petal. He began with the eyes, for the truth must see everything without judging. Then he sculpted the lips, which would never say anything other than what the heart feels. But Aletheia's secret was in her feet. Prometheus spent days modeling firm feet, proportional, made to walk for centuries over rocks, thorns and rivers without ever wavering. He wanted the truth to be slow but constant. It did not need to run, because time would always be at its side. The white statue shone in the gloom of the workshop, a vision of purity that seemed to breathe even before receiving the breath of life. Suddenly the sky tore apart. Zeus's roar echoed across the mountains, a thunder that made the foundations of the workshop shake. Prometheus was summoned to the throne of Olympus. Zeus did not like secrets, and the Titan's silent work aroused the distrust of the king of the gods. Prometheus knew he could not refuse the call, but he felt a chill in his soul that did not come from the mountain wind. He looked one last time at Aletheia, still unfinished, still just clay waiting for the spark. He wiped the sweat from his brow, put away his tools and walked towards the exit, leaving behind the silence of the workshop. What he didn't realize was that, in the thickest shadows between the stone pillars, 2 shining eyes watched him. The silence of the workshop was replaced by the muffled laughter of someone who is about to corrupt perfection itself. Dolus was not a god of strength, but of cunning. He was the assistant no one saw, the one who polished the tools and prepared the clay, always learning the master's secrets to use for his own benefit. While Prometheus sought order, Dolus loved chaos. He looked at the statue of truth with profound contempt. To him, something so pure was an insult, a white canvas begging for a stain. He was envious of Prometheus's skill, but more than that, he hungered for power. He knew that if he could create something that looked like the truth, but that served his whims, he would be the true lord of men. He wanted something far more cruel. He wanted to prove that deception could be as beautiful and as perfect as reality was left of the divine clay. With feverish speed, Dolus began his sinister work. He took the rest of the clay that Prometheus had prepared and began to mold a copy. Every detail, every line of Aletheia's face, every strand of hair was replicated with frightening precision. It was a master's work, driven by obsession and malice. He molded the lie into the image of the truth, ensuring that no mortal eye could distinguish one from the other. He smiled as he saw the second face emerge from the clay, a face so radiant and serene as the original. He gave her the same height, the same majestic posture, the same deep gaze. But the beauty of the lie is always superficial, and Dolus, in his rush to surpass the Creator, was about to make the mistake that would seal the fate of his work forever. But greed has a price that haste cannot pay. Dolus was so absorbed in copying Alethia's beauty that he did not notice that the divine clay was running low. He finished the torso, the delicate hands, the elegant neck, and the golden hair that seemed to glow in the darkness. But when he reached the base, when his fingers sought out the dough to sculpt the feet, there was nothing left. The pot was empty. The clay of Prometheus, blessed and unique, had come to an end. Dolus entered in panic. He tried to scrape the edges of the pot, tried to mix ordinary earth, but nothing worked. He looked at his creation. It was magnificent. It was identical to truth. But it ended in lumps of rough, shapeless clay. It had no base. Prometheus entered his workshop with the weight of Zeus's orders still on his shoulders. He expected to find the silence of his unfinished work, but what he saw left him paralyzed. In the center of the hall, in the twilight light, stood not one but two identical figures. Two women of white clay, so beautiful that they seemed ready to sing. Prometheus rubbed his eyes, believing that fatigue was betraying him. He approached, and the longer he looked, the more confused he became. Dolus, hidden in the deep shadows, holding his breath, his heart beating like a war drum. Prometheus did not notice the absence of the feet on the second statue, for they were positioned so that the bases blended into the shadows. Impressed by what he thought was a miracle of his own creation, that truth had multiplied on its own, the Titan felt a dangerous pride. Take the final step. The moment of transcendence arrived. Prometheus, the bringer of fire, could wait no longer. He bent over the two figures, his lungs charged with the essence of the heavenly ether. With a deep breath, he released the spark of immortality. The golden mist floated like a veil over the clay faces, penetrating the pores of the divine clay. The transformation was sublime. The sterile white of the earth gave way to the heat of the skin. The silence of the mineral was broken by the first beat of two hearts. Prometheus believed he was doubling the power of truth, without knowing that he was giving soul to his greatest enemy. But life, when it touches matter, reveals the truth about its form, differentiation. And Dolus's error was about to be exposed in the light of conscience. Alethea, the very essence of truth, opened her eyes with a calm that seemed to contain all the wisdom of the centuries. She did not hesitate. With a dignity that only reality possesses, she moved her leg and took the first step. Her feet, molded so carefully by the hands of Prometheus, touched the cold floor of the workshop with an unshakable firmness. Each step of hers was a beat of order in the chaos, a slow yet inexorable movement. She did not need to rush, for truth does not compete with time. She walked alongside him. She began to move away from the bench, leaving behind the place of her creation to fulfill her destiny among mortals. Prometheus watched in wonder, seeing in her the solidity that the world needed so much. She was complete in body and soul, ready to face eternity with the security of those who seek the light. You know exactly where you're stepping. Then the other awoke. Pseudologos, the lie, felt the same life coursing through her veins. She felt the desire to follow her sister, to run through the world and spread her seductive influence. She tried to take a step, but horror overcame her. As her torso leaned forward, full of ambition and beauty, her base remained nailed to the ground. She looked down and saw what Dolus had done in his blind rush. Where feet should have been lithe and strong, there were only stumps of raw clay, a shapeless, heavy mass that pinned her to the pedestal of her own falsehood. The lie was dazzling from the waist up, capable of enchanting gods with her smile. But she was a prisoner of her own emptiness. She had no roots in reality, movement that can never be fulfilled, a beauty that ends in a stump of dried mud. In the shadows, the master of deception tasted the bitter taste of his own poison. Dolus watched, huddled behind an obsidian column, as his masterpiece revealed itself to be a grotesque failure. He thought he could fool the Titan and the nature of creation itself, but he forgot that form dictates function. By skimping on the clay, by neglecting the base, he condemned the lie to eternal dependence. He saw Prometheus's gaze shift from admiration to confusion and then to horror. The little spirits of falsehood, the Pseudologoi who were born of Eris, began to circle around Dolus like flies around a wound. They whispered his failure in his ears, reminding him that a lie might be identical to the truth in its face, but it would always stumble upon its own lack of substance. Carried her, let others support her, because, on her own, she was just a dead weight on the floor of history. The distance between them began to grow, and with it, the nature of each became crystal clear. Alethea did not look back. She did not need to. Her existence was self-sufficient. Already Pseudologos reached out her hands, her long, slender fingers scratching the air, trying to grasp the light her sister left behind. She screamed without a sound, a silent plea for legs she would never have. The winged spirits of discord began to merge with her skin, clay becoming his accomplices. It was the world's first lesson. The truth moves alone. But the lie needs a legion of shadows to appear as if it were somewhere. Without feet to walk, the lie began to learn the art of projecting itself, of sending its whispers away. Since its body was condemned to immobility, world to come to her since she could never walk among men, Prometheus finally understood the lesson that fate had carved in his workshop. He looked at the clay stumps of Pseudologos and felt a divine sadness. He knew that from that day on, humanity would be divided. He turned to the emptiness of the workshop, as if speaking to all the men yet to be born, and let his warning echo through the ages. "Be careful," he seemed to say, "for beauty can be a mask for the unfinished. A lie is not its appearance, for it shines as brightly as the truth, but its inability to sustain itself. A lie does not have the legs to travel long distances. It gets tired, it stops, it is abandoned by time. It can even be carried for a while on the shoulders of deceivers. But eventually, whoever carries it gets tired, and it is left behind, returning to what it always was, just cold, motionless clay, forgotten in the dust of reality." The centuries passed like heartbeats for the gods. Prometheus' workshop became a ruin, an echo of a forgotten time. But the law that was established there never changed. The truth, Alethea, roamed the world. She crossed deserts of ignorance and oceans of doubt, leaving deep footprints that became highways to civilization. She advanced slowly, for truth is never in a hurry to get where time waits. Meanwhile, the lie remained exactly where Dolus left it. She did not grow old, but she cracked. She did not walk, but she gathered dust. She tried to shine for the travelers who passed by, trying to convince them that she was the true goddess. But one look at her non-existent feet was enough for the spell to be broken, and so it remains to this day. Look around you, and you will see the daughters of Dolus everywhere. They appear in brilliant speeches, in easy promises, and in smiles that don't reach the eyes. They look perfect, attractive, and ready to guide us. But remember the secret of Prometheus' workshop. Look at your feet. The lie may shine like gold, but it cannot take a step alone. It needs you to move. It needs you to carry it and repeat it. But the truth continues its path, firm and constant, without needing anyone to support it. It leaves traces that time does not erase. Therefore, when you come across the Pseudologoi, do not be fooled by the beauty of their faces or the sweetness of their voices. Existence, the truth walks towards eternity, while the lie dies where it was born, with no feet to escape its own judgment.